Let's Go Reviews. You suggest it, I review it, and welcome back to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise review. Today we are continuing this little review series by taking a look at Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors from 1986. So, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors, was released in 1986 and was directed by Chuck Russell, and once again written by Wes Craven, who actually got to return this time. In this movie, a young woman named Kristen has been having nightmares about Freddy. What a surprise! But during one of these nightmares, Freddy made it appear that she attempted to kill herself, which resulted in her being taken to Westview, mental institution, where we're introduced to a bunch of other kids in the mental ward. We're also introduced to one of the doctors, Dr. Matt, I believe, who is actually really nice to the kids and actually feels bad for them. Oh yeah, and also Nancy's back, even though she's dead. Or not dead. I better explain this. You see, Nancy is back in this film, and she's still played by Heather Langenkamp. Now, for those of you saying, well, should Nancy die in the first movie? Yes and no. You see, Wes initially didn't want her to die, so she's not. Even though in the second film they say she went insane, and in this film she didn't die, did not go insane, graduated college, and actually got a successful business as a doctor. Who knew? Also, Robert Englund is back once again as Freddy Krueger, and this is pretty much the film that started Freddy's transformation to sinister horror villain to goofy comedic villain. Freddy still is pretty sinister at times, but this is the film where he started cracking one-liners and really, really lame puns. Anyway, so yes, the kids are told that the reason they've all been brought here is because they're the last of the Elm Street children in Springwood. Freddy is planning on picking them all off one by one, and he starts off pretty decently when he kills one of the teens, Philip, who was known to be a sleepwalker, by, cutting his veins out of his wrists and controlling the kid like a marionette puppet, because Philip created marionettes, and taking him to an old place of the asylum where he cuts the strings loose and Philip falls to his death. Of course, they think it's suicide, and we're introduced to this nun in the film who explains that Freddy was born when his mother, a nun named Amanda Krueger, was raped repeatedly by 100 maniacs, giving Freddy the nickname the bastard son of 100 maniacs. Another character who also returns is Officer Thompson, who's still played by John Saxon. Anyway, the plan of the film, in this film, the kids realize that in the dreams you're allowed to be given unique abilities. Kristen, for example, was able to pull people into her dreams as long as they were asleep. A lot of weird stuff happens in this movie, but the point is that the kids will learn that they have dream powers, and they fight off Freddy in the dream world, making them the Dream Warriors. Now, of course, this doesn't work out. Freddy still picks them all off. Well, not all of them. Some of them survive. Anyway, the kids here were introduced to, I already mentioned Kristen and Philip, who gets killed. There's also Kincaid, who's prone to anger, and he gets the ability of super strength. Jennifer, who gets killed also. Um, Nick, Will, who has the ability, who can walk because he's wheelchair bound in the real world. He can walk in the dream world, and he's the wizard master. Tamara, who in her dream world is, she's beautiful, even though she was actually pretty beautiful in the real world, and also she's a bad girl. And also, the reason she was sent to the mental ward is because she is what's the word? I don't know, getting over drugs. I figure out the proper way of putting it. And she's in the asylum ward, so she doesn't relapse. There's also Joey, who is in a coma for a majority of the film, because he's trapped in the dream world, and in the real world he can't speak. So, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, and it seems like it would be bad, but actually it's personally the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It's my personal favorite. It's actually I know that's a common thing to say, is Part 3 is your favorite. Part 3 is everybody's favorite, but I can see why. This is a very well-made movie. There's more. Freddy, of course, is back, and he's still cracking jokes, but he's still pretty damn creepy. Robert Englund is once again hamming it up as Freddy. It's great to have Nancy back, and all the kids are really interesting characters, even if half of them do get killed. But the kills in this film are pretty well known. And of course, there's a lot of really interesting scenes, like when Kristen ends up in the dream world, she gets attacked by a giant Freddy worm, and it was half animatronic, half stop motion, and I love when they use stop motion effects in movies. It always is interesting, just the time and effort they took. However, there are some pretty odd moments in the movie. For example, near the end, Thompson and the doctor go to a junkyard where apparently Freddy's bone remains were buried in the trunk of a car. Okay. And during this, Freddy manages to, I'm not kidding here, leave the dream world and possess his bones and start attacking them. Okay, so now Freddy can possess his skeleton remains in the real world? Like, what? Like, seriously, like, what? Anyway, but, yeah, all that said, wrapping up, Freddy picks off half the Dream Warriors, what a surprise there, until Joey, Kristen, and Kincaid are left, and Nancy too. It seems that they've won. Freddy's bones are put into a grave, they splash holy water on it and place a cross on it, and at first it looks like Freddy has disintegrated to pieces. But turns out didn't work the first time, and Freddy kills Nancy. Now this is actually one of the few things that actually bugged me about the movie. Yes, I got upset that Nancy got killed, but if you were going to kill her off, have Freddy revel in this moment. Nancy was one of the few people who actually managed to get away from him. You should have Freddy gloating at her, like being like, I finally got you. But no. No, Freddy just stabs her, laughs in her face, and that's it. Freddy, you finally picked off the girl that managed to get away from you. Revel in that shit, dude. So yeah, Freddy gets destroyed, Freddy gets killed, hopefully for good this time. Nancy dies, and the remaining kids live happily ever after, until Freddy comes back again. No, they're fucked. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is a pretty good sequel. It's actually a better sequel than the last movie, and it actually feels like a true sequel with Wes Craven returning. Unfortunately, this would be the last movie Wes Craven would work on the Nightmare series until he did Wes Craven's Nightmare a couple years later, but that's really far away, and we'll get to that soon. However, next time we gotta take a look at the film that started the downward spiral of the Nightmare movies. Well, until then, I'm Kobe the Reviewer, and remember, I don't believe in fairy tales.